Bonjour.
Salut.
Thank you for listening to Man Enough. I'm Justin Baldoni.
Je suis Elisabeth Plante.
This is the worst accent in the history.
It's really bad.
I know. I try to be sexy, but it's terrible.
It's great.
Welcome to Man Enough.
Hi.
I'm Justin.
I'm Liz.
I'm Jamie.
And why am I speaking with a terrible French accent today?
Who do we have on that's... Liz, are you super excited about who's coming on?
We have a fellow French Canadian, which is very rare
She is
in my line of work.
so excited.
Yes, Georges St-Pierre. Say
Now,
it like I say it.
If you would have said his name,
You wouldn't have known what I'm talking about.
I would have not known who you're talking
yes,
about.
That happens to me all the time.
Georges St-Pierre.
Georges St-Pierre.
Georges St-Pierre.
And who is he for those of us who have no idea who he is?
The most famous UFC MMA fighter in the world.
I would say top 5, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
He has
Big deal.
had the most crazy face brutal beatings after he wins, and yet somehow he's so damn good looking still. So a little jealous about that.
Well, it's cool that we have someone that actually is in a sport that epitomizes like manhood.
Yeah, it'll be interesting conversation.
To have him have a conversation like this is kind of cool.
Do you know anything about the UFC?
I know everything about the UFC, Jay.
No.
I'm a big, huge...
And you know who he is then?
Oh, I've got posters of him. all
Great.
on my wall.
Okay. I call bullshit. All right. We'll be right back with
Georges St-Pierre.
Georges St-Pierre.
Georges St-Pierre.
This is Man Enough.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. People don't always realize that physical symptoms like headaches, teeth grinding, and even digestive issues can be indicators of stress. And let's not forget about doom scrolling, sleeping too little, sleeping too much, undereating, and overeating. Now, running a business, supporting my loved ones, being mindful of how I care for myself, it's a tricky juggle. And I'm really grateful not to have to do it all alone. Thanks to my own relationship and therapy, I was able to identify my stress points, reflect on experiences that deeply affected me, and better navigate life with helpful tools and a fresh perspective, all thanks to my therapist. Stress shows up in all kinds of ways. And in a world that's telling you to do more, sleep less, and grind all the time, here's your reminder to take care of yourself, do less, and maybe try some therapy. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. You don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Give it a try. See why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. Anything you share is confidential. Send a message to your counselor anytime, and you'll get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. Connect in a safe and private online environment. It's so convenient. The service is available for clients worldwide. Look, it's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and the Man Enough podcast listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/manenough. That's BETTERHELP.com/manenough.
Hello and welcome back to Man Enough. And if I could have one guest that all of my male friends are jealous that I get to talk to today, it would be Georges St-Pierre. How are you, man?
Doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on the show.
And I have a question for Liz Plank. How do you feel about his accent?
I love it because I used to have it. Moi aussi, je suis montréalaise. Donc, je veux dire ton nom, Georges St-Pierre, comme il faut.
Wow.
Ouais.
Je m'attendais pas à ça. Je m'attendais vraiment pas à ça. Wow, I can't believe it.
Fait que t'habites à Montréal?
J'habite à côté de Montréal, sur la rive sud.
Ah, cool. Ben, ça compte comme Montréal.
Wait, you used to have...
Guys, not only that she speak French, she speak with a perfect
Perfect.
French Canadian accent.
I didn't lose it.
She didn't lose it.
No, how long you been in US?
7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, you used to have his... Wait, so when you spoke,
I used to
English
talk it
with
like this. Yeah.
Where did it go?
I mean, I had to adjust to your culture and your people so that I would
like
be
your wife,
accepted
Emily.
and be able to talk about American politics. It makes me sad because I love the way you speak. It's so much more beautiful.
I wish I would have grew up speaking English, but I learned it too late in my life. I went to school, and in a French environment, we learn English like once or twice a week growing up.
Yeah.
But every time we go back to our normal life, I was speaking French. So I started to speak English really when I was about 18,
Yeah.
19 years old.
I'm
Wow.
jealous.
Because it was a necessity. But before that,
course.
I you know what I mean? You always go back to
Perfect.
what you're most comfortable.
On top of being one of the baddest in terms of like toughest men on the planet, I'm also extremely jealous that you have such a sexy accent.
Yes. Don't ever lose it. You
Don't
learned
ever
English
lose it.
at the right time.
Well,
I
let's-
think the best accent is the British accent. I think.
Can we
Let's learn about you.
Yes.
Liz is going to embarrass you. She's going to read your bio
Oh my gosh,
for
yes.
our audience. So bear with her.
Georges St-Pierre, you're an actor, you're an MMA legend, widely regarded as one of the greatest fighters in mixed martial arts in history. All right? Fellow Québécois, oui. Tu viens de Saint-Isidore, Canada. So that's where you're from. Since your official retirement from professional MMA fighting in 2019, you've parlayed your career into a burgeoning career in Hollywood. And you did a role as Batroc from Captain America, which was a Disney Plus series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And you've continued to carve out a name for yourself in so many different arenas, following your long reign as the welterweight champion of the world.
Yeah, mic drop.
That's a big
So
mic
you're
drop.
an underachiever, clearly.
Yeah. All right. So George, God, I feel like I want to ask him in my terrible French accent, but I'm not going to do it because this
Please
is serious.
don't. Please
So I
don't
want to
do
ask
it.
you a serious question. All right. Especially for all the men who are listening, who know you could rip their heads off with your hands, your beautiful, strong hands and arms and abs. Okay, I'm going to stop now. But I want to know, when was the last time, George, that you didn't feel enough?
Every time I was going to a fight, I was extremely uncomfortable, terrified. I was scared. And I am in a very egotistic field of work, right? Everybody trying to be the alpha and showcase their strong and try to intimidate each other. But every fight, I was terrified. I was putting on an act. And I was always doubting myself. Man, am I good enough? Am I going to get humiliated? Am I going to be able to do this? So every single time, there's not a fight in my career that I went there 100% confident.
Wow.
Never. I was always terrified and scared to death. I never enjoyed fighting, not even once in my life. I did it because I used that as a benchmark to propel me where I wanted to get to in life, to have the freedom, the health, because it keeps you healthy to be an athlete, the wealth, the access of things that people might not have. Basically, that's why I did it. I never enjoyed it, not even a second.
Wow.
So if you could go back, you're saying you did enjoy what your life's work was, right? Or what you were most known for. So how would you do it differently so that maybe you would have enjoyed fighting? Or is fighting inherently something, you kind of say that it was something that you never really wanted to do, but you wanted the lifestyle.
Well, if I look around myself sometime, and I was asking myself the same question, especially early on in my career, because a lot of guys, they enjoyed it. Even 2 weeks ago, I was in Vegas. I was cornering one of my training partner, and he was in the locker room before the fight, and he was having fun. He was like, "Hey, I'm so excited to do this." And I told him, I said, "Man, you're a psychopath." Like, before I fight, every single time I'm asking that question. I'm terrified. I'm like, "Man, what the hell I'm doing? What the hell I'm doing this for? Oh my God." And once the fight is over and I win, I'm like, "Yeah, when is the next one?" It's a weird thing. But it all started when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was not the same person. I remember I looked at myself in the mirror back then, and I didn't like what I was seeing, because I was a kid that lacked a lot of confidence, a lot of self-confidence, and I was getting picked on a lot at school. I was victim of bullying, and I didn't like what I was seeing, but I learned how to fall in love with who I wanted to become. And it gives me a sense of direction, a purpose. And that's how my journey begins. You know what I mean? I wanted to change my environment, but I realized that I need to change myself from the inside out in order to change my environment. You know, sometimes you want to change things that are around yourself, but you have no control on it. The best thing to do is to change yourself, and from there, things will get better. You know, that's what martial art taught me in the beginning. I wish I could tell you that I get rid of bullying because I beat up all my bullied, but it's not how it happened to me. I learned how to gain confidence with martial art, and in nature, predatory animal gonna hunt the easiest prey. Bullied are the same way. They're gonna take on the easiest victim, you know, and the person that doesn't seem strong. And that was my problem when I was young. I was looking down. I walk with my shoulder shrug. And when I shook someone's hand, I was looking it down. I didn't have a good self-confidence. And that's what martial art taught me. It made me change. And by changing, I get rid of bullying. That's how the journey began for me.
Wow.
So I'm curious if you can take me back to that boy who walked with his shoulders low and who didn't look at people when he shook their hands. What was going on at home for you? What was happening at home that made that boy so insecure?
I was having a hard time at school because I was not focusing on the right thing. I was not focusing on what the teacher was saying in front of the class. I was focusing on how I'm gonna get my bag in my locker room, reach the bus before I get beat up by the bully who was waiting for me every single day. You know, it was bad time for me. I was terrified. It doesn't seem much but when you're a kid, I grew up in Canada. It's a nice country. I can't complain about it. But it doesn't mean because you're born and raised in a nice country that always nice thing happen there.
Yep.
So school was not very good for me. It was a bad experience. And when I was going back home, my dad used to, and my dad he became one of my greatest inspiration because he used to drink. He was an alcoholic. And he worked really hard and he stopped when I was a teenager, and it really changed the bond in our family. It makes us much closer and stronger. But it was a bad environment. So school was not good. At home, things were not the best either. So the only place that I felt reward, it was at the dojo, the place where I was training, the place where I learned how to defend myself, karate. That's the only place I felt like, man, I'm doing good. It was value. It was. I felt like I had value there.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why probably I choose that path. It's not an accident.
So when you spoke of you're in this field that is very masculine, very all about strength, domination, and you have risen to the top of that. And yet you admitted that going to each fight, you also were afraid, which is really brave to say that out loud, right? Yeah. What was your relationship then with your own manhood, right? Because I imagine that you're in a field that's all about being what society says is being a man, and that's what makes a man really wonderful and strong and all these qualities. And yet you were afraid of some of that. So did it ever make you question just yourself, and or did you think differently than that, like how you walk now through the earth? Do you feel, just tell me how that was for you.
I've been on both sides. So when I was young, I was on the side of, I would say, I was a coward. Sometimes people were picking on me or picking on friends, and I didn't have the courage to stand up for myself because I was afraid to get beat up and being humiliated. And later on, I was on the other side. I was afraid, but I had the strength and the will to stood up to it and face the challenge. That's what I did in the fight. I think what really inspired me is because I never had really a chance to take revenge on my bullied. And I don't think revenge is the solution. I was a teenager, and I remembered I saw the first UFC that Royce Gracie won at the time. At the time, it didn't have any weight class. The rules were much different.
It was amazing.
It was like very barbarian type of fight.
Right.
And I remember I saw that little man, Royce Gracie. I mean, I say little, but to compare to all his opponent, he seems very little. And he was fighting against a guy that looked way more intimidating than he was. And he won the tournament. And I remember when I saw him won the first tournament in the UFC, I realized, and I kind of was very inspired by him doing this, because he did something that I never had the courage to do. He stood up, and he was able to beat his home bullied, so to speak. Because in the sport, before you have interviews and people try to intimidate each other, and he really inspired me. And right at that time, I was about 15 to 16 years old. I knew that's what I wanted to do for a living. And I remember when I said that to my friend, they all start laughing and made fun of me.
I mean, yeah, you talk a lot about being afraid, but you've been very brave in many points, and especially with the break that you took in 2013, right? And that you decided to come back only when the UFC was going to be testing athletes, basically, based on, if they were taking steroids or not. And you've really taken a position on that. Can you talk about why that was important to you, and even just more broadly the theme of steroids and body image? I know Justin's going to want to talk about it too, but just to pivot into that and the pressures that exist within your whole industry.
Yeah, I was competing at a time that they didn't really have test for the athlete, So and I know for a fact. I mean, I can't say a name, and that's not what I wanted to do. That a lot of guys that I was competing against were on performance enhancing drugs. And it's very unfortunate, because you can say I play baseball, I play basketball, but you don't play fighting. The outcome of a fight is much more serious. Could be much more serious than the outcome of a basketball game or anything. You know what I mean? Because you can die out there. So that's the main reason why I'm against performance enhancing drug in the sport. And I was very vocal about it. And that's one of the main reasons why I took my break after my fight with Johnny Hendricks. But what I do regret is that, and I didn't have the courage to do it at the time, and I regret it a little bit. And live with regret, it's very bad. And I should have done it. Is during the press, there was one big press conference before the fight that I said vocally that I was going to get tested by VADA, who's one of the most prestigious organizations to be tested by. My opponent agreed. UFC didn't say a word. But when it was time to do the press conference live, my opponent disagreed, said he was not going to do it. And what I should have done at the time, and I didn't do it. So I feel regret. I was not man enough to do it. I should have said, "Oh yeah, you don't want to do it? I'm quitting. Bye, ciao." That's what I should have done. And I did not do it. I took the fight.
Why do you think you didn't do it?
I didn't do it because it was a lot on the line. It was during a training camp, so the preparation for that fight was already happening. And if you cancel everything at the last minute, it's like you cancel the show, you cancel the main episode. So, but it would have been the right thing to do. And I didn't do it. I took the fight. I was going through a tough time too. I was in depression. It was probably the worst training camp of my life. Took the fight. I won the fight. It was a very close fight. And after I took my break, I never wanted to hurt the UFC. And I hurt someone in particular. The reason why I'm doing this is I wanted to change the system. Because sometimes I understand that for one individual, taking performance-enhancing drug, it can make the difference between being a millionaire or not making it in the big league. So, and I'm aware of it. And it's the same thing in baseball, basketball, football, by the way. It's the same thing in every other sport. But I'm under the impression that in fighting, in combat sport, especially like my sport, it's even more important because it's very dangerous. So that's why I did that. I never wanted to hurt the UFC. I was aware that in the short term, a lot of their superstar would fail. And that's what happened. And UFC knew that. So at the beginning, they didn't want to do it. But they had a lot of pressure after to do it. So they changed their policy on it. They hired USADA to test their athlete. And in the beginning, it was a disaster. A lot of their superstar tested positive. It was like a disgrace. It was crazy because now you could really see the reality of things. But I believe that at the long run, it elevates their image, and it elevates the image of the sport. And that's what I wanted to do. I was seeing it to the long at the long run. It was not a short-term project for me.
Yeah. And that takes tremendous bravery, George, to go up against a whole system.
Well, I did it because I was a big name in the organization, so I had a lot of leverage.
Yeah.
And I know that I wasn't the only one that had the same opinion. I knew that there were many guys that couldn't stood up publicly to say it because they would have been penalized. Because people don't know the reality of things, but fighting, guys don't make a lot of money. I mean, you only heard about the Conor McGregor, the champions. I made a lot of money, but in the beginning of my career, man, I didn't make a lot of money. I started my first professional fight. I made 1,300 in my first professional fight. My first fight in UFC was 3,000 plus 3,000, 6,000. My first fight in UFC, my first championship fight was 9,000 plus 9,000, and I lost my first championship fight.
Yeah,
I only gained 9,000. It's not a lot. So that how it was back then. But people are under the impression that once you fight for a title, you're immediately a millionaire, and you're not. You need to build yourself up, build up your brand, and once you reach a certain status, and people tune in, they want to see you fight. Now you make a lot of money, but it takes a lot of time. So I was not alone, but I was one of the only guy that had that, I would say, that level in the company, that power that could stood up and say the truth about it.
I love hearing you talk like this. It's so interesting. It couldn't be a farther parallel, but there's parts of what you're saying that I personally resonate with, right? My UFC, if you will, and you stood up in the UFC to fight for something. And because of your privilege and power and what little privilege and power I have, I'm fighting the patriarchy. A little bit of a different system, but nonetheless, it does kind of feel like fight to the death. And at the same time, I also have so much compassion for so many other men in positions of privilege and power like myself who don't say anything for the same reason why so many men in the UFC were so afraid to say something, because they can lose it all.
Yeah.
So I honor and respect what you did. I'm in some ways, we have this idea. I like to call it the myth of the alpha male. And in my book, Man Enough, I kind of talk about how the alpha is a myth, right? It's actually rooted in a researcher who studied wolves and wrote a book early on in his career. I think it was the 70s. Published the book, and he talked about this alpha wolf. And then, of course, what we do best as men is we take that idea of, see, this is how it is with animals. We are animals. The alpha wolf is the lone wolf, conquers via domination. And then we kind of adapt that. And in reality, what this researcher tried to do is he tried to have that book taken off the shelves and removed from print because it was taken out of context. See, this researcher studied a wolf in captivity, and he found that it was through domination that this wolf became an alpha. But in reality, when you study wolves in the wild, wolves act very similar to families. There are no lone wolves. In fact, the lone wolf is literally a lonely wolf. It's a lonely, sad, depressed wolf. But we've taken that into our own context, and we've created this myth of the alpha. And the alpha is this lone man that has to fight to the death, right? We use the UFC as this analogy of the patriarchy. has to fight to the death in a cage, the last man standing. I can exercise my will over each other. Liz calls the patriarchy a pyramid scheme, which it really is. The higher you get, the more you have to dominate. You get to the top and you're just waiting for somebody to take your position of power, which you've said in the UFC. It's hard to get to the championship. It's even harder to stay a champion. I'm just curious, George, now reflecting on your life as a man, do you ever struggle with the fact that you've come to be famous, you've come to make money really via a sport that glorifies violence, and in many ways then asks men to become alphas like you? Like, men want to be you. Why do they want to be you? Well, because you're the baddest man in the world. However, what often they don't see, what I see, is I also see a man who handled himself out of the ring like a gentleman. You never had a controversy. You were kind to people, right? You didn't play up. You weren't creating this like, I'm a bad guy and trying to do crazy things for PR. But I'm just curious if do you ever struggle with that? Because you were bullied as a kid.
There is a big stereotype about people in combat sport, especially fighters, right? That exactly like you said, we're like cavemen. Yeah. And we try to be alpha, but I believe things has changed, like during hunter-gatherer time, maybe the alpha was the strongest man or the one that was the best in terms of survival. You know what I mean? Later on, it become maybe, I guess, the world become more materialistic, like more about money. Then I believe it's up now it's about maybe technology, someone who manipulate the technology the best, who knows how to, maneuver in terms of society, could be the alpha. So I think it was always very important for me, if I wanted to, to have a good life, to not only be a good fighter, because I wanted to become also a good model for people who are watching the sport. I wanted to make a difference, not only be seen as someone who can beat up another person, because that's not who I am.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be more. I wanted to have a good positive impact, and that's my brand. I wanted to be someone that is regarded as a positive figure, and not only a good fighter.
So what do you say to those men that are listening right now, those young boys that think that they need to grow their muscles big, to have their bodies become machines in order to be respected?
I have a lot of parents, and this is a true story, that comes with me with their kids, and they always tell me, "Hey, George, this is the future world champion. This is my son. Which advice would you give him?" And I look down and I always say the same thing. I tell the kid, I say, "Are you going to school? Yes. This is the most important thing for you. Mm. Yes. If you have dreams, try to reach it as much as you can, But the odds of becoming an elite fighter and to make it are very low. So you need to have an assurance, stay at school. Mm. Maybe school, you don't like it right now, but it's an assurance for you. Mm. Because you can't be Georges St-Pierre. You can't be, you know what I mean? The chance of succeeding, it's very, very rare. And I'm not only talking about fighting. I'm talking about basketball, hockey. You see many guys and young kids, they put all their eggs in the same basket. And what happens if in your late 20s or early 30s, you get in a car accident, or you just simply don't make it? You have nothing that you can fall back into. Your life is ruined. So what I say to the kid is, yes, try to make it big, but stay at school. Educate yourself. In the meantime, while you're training, try to become a lawyer, an engineer, or whatever you want it to be, in case things doesn't turn out the way you want. Mm. I was lucky. Yeah, I worked really hard. I was gifted, I was a good athlete, but you never know what can happen in life. I was lucky. Luck I'm saying luck because it's my ignorance. I don't know what really caused it, but I made it. But things could have turned in a different direction.
Well, look what happened. Look what happened to your counterpart, Matt Hughes, right? Your first fight, your first big championship, one of your first big championship fights. I mean, he got hit by I don't know if you know this, but he got hit by a train.
Oh gosh.
And I know many guys. I know many person that I was training with that was just as good as me, just as talented as me, but they never made it. Maybe one get in a car accident, one tear his ACL, or never came back as good as he was, or simply things that can influence your emotion, your judgment.
Yeah.
So it's important to have an assurance. And I did it myself. I was at school. People think I had no choice and I became a fighter. That's not true. That's another stereotype. I was studying. I didn't know what I wanted to become, but I was at school. My parents forced me to say, hey, we want you to be educated. Go at school. When I stopped, it was when I had my first championship fight. I asked my parents, I said, listen, I had a chance to fulfill my dream. It's an opportunity that might never come back if I missed it. If it doesn't go the way I want, I can always come back next winter or next summer for the next session at university. But if I miss that opportunity, that window will be closed forever. School, I can always come back. So that's when I took the choice and I left. But it's only a few people that make it. It's very, very rare. And most of the time, you only hear about the people that make it, but you don't hear about the majority of them that just simply does not make it. And it's a very sad ending for a lot of them. A lot of them. One of the happiest place to be for me is the gym. It's the happiest place because I can, train and practice the sport that I love, martial art. But it also one of the saddest place because very often I had some young kids that come to me and ask me for advice. And if I would have been 100% honest with them, I would have told them straight up, trying to find something real that you wanted to do for a living. You know what I mean? Because the only thing that can happen now is that you're going to get hurt or you're going to get broke. You know what I mean? You should find something more serious. And it's a sad thing. And if I tell them the truth, they will see me as someone who's arrogant, but it's a very sad story. And I've seen this movie before many times, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you're reflecting back reality, really, which is sad. And you spoke about men who don't make it or men who get into accidents, but there's so many injuries in the sport, right? And I think it's this we don't really talk about it. And it's part of this masculinity sort of narrative, right? That and it was sort of exposed with Simone Biles, and her taking not a break, but setting boundaries and limits to what she was able to do, and everyone coming after her. I think if more men also modeled that in sports and we let men do that, then everyone could do it, right?
It was great. And she had the courage to do something I wasn't able to. I took a break after my fight with Johnny Andres because I was going through, I had a lot of problems. I was going also through a depression. But at that time, I was thinking, if I come public and tell people that I'm on a depression, they're gonna tell me, hey, what is he complaining for? He's popular, he has money, he's a celebrity athlete. What is he complaining? So I was ashamed. But I'm glad to see people that come out because it can happen to everybody. I was feeling like that. I was feeling like I couldn't breathe. I was like feeling like a little bit like claustrophobic. I had too much pressure on my shoulder for too long. And I was seeing Simone Biles, Tyson Fury was very vocal about it too. It makes me realize, like, man, they did something that at the time I didn't have the courage to do. You know what I mean? I should have just simply be 100% honest. So even now, even though I'm a world champion fighter, there's things that I don't have I'm courageous to go fight in a cage, but sometimes to say it as it is, it takes a lot of courage. I was not man enough to say it at the time. And I'm learning from my experience. I'm still becoming a better human being because I know I should have done it back then.
Well, I think what we're getting at here, I think, is so important. And I'm so happy to hear you talk about this, especially a man like you, so respected by men, is the difference between physical and emotional bravery. And what I write about a little bit is just how my entire life as a boy and as a man, the type of bravery that I was told was important was physical bravery. Anything that's physical, a physical risk, anything we're, and even down to what we applaud in culture, right? Like we applaud the firefighters who run into the burning buildings. We applaud the veterans who fought for our country, and we should. But what about the men and women who take a stance like Simone Biles, who are willing to step away from the ring for their mental health, who are the AA, who goes to Alcoholics Anonymous like your father when you were 16 and says, I want a better life. I believe that's the type of bravery that we need to be making more room for. So I'm curious if you're open to telling us a bit about the type of depression you were under and why you think that happened. And because again, we associate alphaness with physical dominance. But what if someone like you had the power to shift that? What if it wasn't about dominating physically? What if it was about the emotional bravery? What is it about like, hey, sure, that matters, but you know what matters more? The ability to say like, I need help. I'm hurting. I have depression. Because that seems to be the most unmanly thing right now.
There is different form of courage. People are saying to me, oh, you're so courageous. You were fighting in the octagon in front of a lot of people. Yet that's only one form of courage. I lacked different form of courage too. Sometimes you need to say it like it is, but you don't have the courage to do it. And maybe that's one of the form of courage that I lacked. At the time when I took my break, I was going through a lot of tough time, in my personal life. And I had so much pressure for too long. I was not in a happy place. And I didn't know how to explain that to people because I was afraid to being judged.
Yeah.
Because people they don't wear my shoes. They cannot put themselves in my shoes to see the world how it is for me. So I was afraid, and I left, and I regret it. It takes a lot of courage to seek help sometimes and to say it like it is. And it took me a long time. It took me more than 4 years to come back.
Did you go to therapy ever?
I didn't go to therapy. I used time. I did stuff because all my life it was about performance. There was only one goal in my life. It was about becoming the best fighter, and to be the best at something, I believe you need to be obsessed.
Yeah, tunnel vision.
And one thing that all elite athletes have in common, and all drug addict, alcoholic, they have an addiction.
Yes. Now we're talking.
It's the same thing. I have the same addiction. The brain, the way it works is the same. I listened a psychologist on podcast the other day, and he was talking about this, and he was saying the brain doesn't make the difference. It's an addiction.
Yeah.
The only thing that is different is in our society we glorify elite athletes, and we look down upon drug addict and alcoholic.
Yeah.
But the addiction is the same thing. It's an addiction that we have, and that's why I believe a lot of professional athletes, once they retired, a lot of them fall apart. They because they don't have that high, or they simply just can't retire on time. The sport has to retire them, and I didn't want to make the same mistake. Looking at my surroundings, especially in my environment, I've seen a lot of those. It's a nightmare. If you go to the Hall of Fame, you see a lot of the fighters, or I'm talking about fighters in MMA, but also boxers. A lot of them have a lot of issues. And a lot of athletes, if you would ask them the question once they retire, maybe 10 years after, they will tell you the truth. A lot of them, the big majority, will wish they would have retired earlier.
Yeah.
And not only in fighting, in baseball too. Like they just did it for too long. They can have an injury. And if they would have retired a little bit earlier, they would have been healthy. But the problem is we're addicted to that high, to put it on the line. And when we stop, we feel like we're not alive anymore. So I believe the best way to deal with this is to find yourself another goal, even if it seems unreachable. My goal in the beginning, when I wanted to become champion in MMA, was it seems unreachable, and I did it, and I'm happy. Now, once I retire, it's been about 4 years that I'm having acting classes because I wanted to change, and now I'm aiming for a different goal. A lot of people laugh at me in the beginning. They're like, you're never gonna go into acting because it seems unreachable. But that's my goal. I transfer my addiction to fighting into acting. Now I'm training really hard. I'm having English classes, acting, camera classes, theater classes to improve my skills in it. And you need to transfer your goal. You know what I mean? Because if you stop everything and you're satisfied, you don't have nothing else to look forward to. That's when you can fall into depression. And that's, I believe, the big problem with a lot of athletes once they retire.
I love so much what you're saying. I want to challenge you in one way, and not in an alpha challenge. I can't even believe I'm saying I want to challenge Georges St-Pierre. There's a part of me as a man that's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But there's one thing I want to just challenge you a little bit on, is what you just said, this idea of, in some ways, you've transferred your addiction, right? You transferred your addiction from fighting now to acting. And one of the things that I'm learning right now, George, in my own healing work and therapy, is that my addiction, very similar to yours, right? I actually would say that the majority of all successful people are successful because of a trauma they experience. And it's a response to that trauma that there's a part of us that are healing something from our childhood. That is why we become experts, which is why we become elite athletes, or, you know, whatever it is. It's that drive, right? It's that trauma response. And if we're not able to stop, we're never going to actually heal the thing that's underneath it. Yeah. So I've learned, and I'm not meaning to call you out, but what I just heard is something that I've done, which is, okay, I'm going to stop doing that, but I'm going to pick up this other addiction. And there's a part of my brain that won't ever let me stop, because if I stop, I die. Because that's how intense that addiction is for me. And for me, it was porn. And then it's success. It's something else. Whatever it is, it'll just show up in different ways. And so I would want to challenge you by saying, I hope you can get to the point where it's okay if you stop. It's okay if acting doesn't work, because you are going to be enough no matter what.
In the last 25 years, it almost never happened that I take a day without training. Almost never. I mean, maybe once a week, but never during the week time. You know, it was very rare. Like, I should have, maybe it's because I was sick or injured or something very, something very big, because otherwise I would have feel like I'm not getting closer to my goal. Every single day I was training. I was doing something in order to make me a better fighter, to get me closer to my goal. That's how that's my mentality. That's one of the big reasons why I had success. It's so easy to let one day go. The day become a week, the week become a month, and then it's a year. And then you find out that you just messed up your whole life. Yeah. So that was one of my strengths, but it's an addiction too. And you know what? Just give you an example. Today, I woke up. I had an English class through Zoom. Then I went to eat. Then I came back. I had some errand to do, and now I'm here doing the podcast. I'm probably not gonna train today. If I would have a day like this earlier in my life, I would have felt terrible. It was unthinkable. It's still hard today in my mind. I have to get this idea out.
But so what's your message then to men? You're a father, right? Men who are fathers, right? And who want to be good at work, but also want to be there for their partners and their children. Like, how is that even possible?
I think it's possible. you need to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and identify your priorities. My priority now are not the same that it was 25 years ago or 10 years ago, because I'm not the same person, and you're not, I remember when I was 15 years old, I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I saw the first video of Royce Gracie, I was 16. Now I had a sense of direction. I knew what I wanted to do, but the chance of like achieving it were very, very low. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying, because I know a lot of kids could be watching, it's normal to not knowing what you want to do, but you need to still work towards that goal in a general way. It's like a funnel. You start wide. When you start in the beginning, I believe you need to have a foundation, a base to be educated.
Yeah.
To being educated give you more option. It's like an assurance. Once you have this, it's your base. That's it. It's like a funnel. You might not you might not know what you want to do, but you get closer. And as you grow up, you change. You will not be the same person at 20 that you were at 15, and 25 that you were at 20, and 30 that you were. You know what I mean? You constantly change. Trust your life. Trust yourself. It will come. One day you'll make a choice. You'll know what you want to become. And I think for a kid, sometimes the parents try to force their kid to become a replica of themselves. You know what I mean? I would never want my kid to become a replica of myself. I would want them to choose to do what they want to do. I think kids should have the choice to do what they want to do. And if they want to become an engineer, but be the best engineer. If you want to become a janitor, be the best janitor. Whatever you want to choose that you want to do as a career with your life, choose it, but try to become the best at it.
I have a confession. I hope this doesn't. I hope I'm okay to say this. I hope that that I don't hurt your heart. I had no idea who you were before we did this podcast. Not because you're not brilliant and wonderful, and you're not like and I mean you're inducted into the Hall of Fame. So clearly it's me. The reason why I say that is because if I saw you walking down the street, I wouldn't know any of your career. Right? I don't follow UFC. It's not, I follow basketball. You mentioned basketball, and so as we're talking and I'm listening, a lot of you're sharing such wonderful things. A lot of it is centered around career and things of that nature. Even as we talked about depression, still has it related to career. So let me pretend that I was to invite you to my house. Because I wouldn't invite you to my house because you're this famous UFC fighter that's a Hall of Famer, right? I don't care. I just wouldn't care. But I would care about you. Like, who is this dude? Who is this dude that's talking about these things? I'm just more interested in that guy, right? So let me ask you a couple questions that have nothing to do with the very thing that I'm the most ignorant person in the room about, right? Which is, now that you have gone through life, seen the mountaintop, experienced so much. You've experienced money, of course. You've experienced fame and recognition. What I care most about and what we're doing on this podcast is how we as men can make a difference in the world, not just for myself, not just for my own satisfaction, but really the legacy that we leave is that we change the world somehow, for our children and for others. And one of them being women, of course, right? We know patriarchy is one of the things that's just oppressed humanity for too long. So what we're trying to do on this podcast is have discussions like we're having now, and like what can we do better just as men? What can we unlearn? What can we learn more of so that we can contribute to that advancement? Do you have any thoughts about that in terms of your world, like how you walk?
Yeah, my life was always about myself. Now it's about making people of my family happy, and it's very important for me. In the early time of my life, it was always about me. Now I don't come first; I come second. You know, this thing happened when you get older. You know, and with family. And one thing though that I realize is, as much as I am a popular, like a celebrity figure as athlete, it's important for me that I protect the people I love. Like a few years ago, I did a special on it was on TV. It was about they were following me with the camera and everything, and they went to my parents' house to meet my parent and everything. And I'm from countryside, and after the show come on here, it was called a prime time. Still to this day, I have people that go at my parents' house, knock at the door to talk to me. People drive from more than 200 miles. Like sometimes they come from United States to talk to me. They go at my parents' house. So it's a scary thing. I don't know if it's the nature of my sport that brings some people like that's why when you look at my social media, you know, you never see any picture of my family or anything like this, because I for me it's very important, even though it's the most gratifying and the greatest thing I ever accomplished in my life. You know, people talk about my career and all this. This is nothing compared to my personal life. My personal life is 100,000 times better than everything, and I'm very happy. But the way that I need to preserve it is by a secrecy. You know, by a lot of people, they openly put that on their social media and everything. I never did anything like it. I never did it. But it's my treasure. It's my diamond. You know what I mean? Like the most important thing for me. And that's also the thing in a way that I'm the most proud of. But in order to preserve it, I need to protect it. And when I realized that, it was when, like, still to this day, like there's people like goes to my parents' house because it's very easy to find. I'm from Saint-Isidore, and you go in the phone book, it's you find my with my family name. You found the name. People know the name of my dad because of that, and they show up there, and it was scary. You know what I mean? And that's why it makes, maybe people call me paranoid, but it's something that's very important.
No. Based on that,
nope,
absolutely
that's not paranoid, man.
Yeah.
That's reasonable.
I don't know. It's because maybe the nature of the field that I gravitate into, like fighting, it brings a lot of a certain kind of people. You know, sometimes they're more extreme. You know, like they want to meet you, or maybe the fan base is different, and maybe that's the reason why. I don't know.
No, I mean, if I had people coming to I would just delete everything with my kids.
We know that you have a time constraint, so we should probably, I don't know where we are into it.
I think we're going to go with rapid fire questions, which are kind of quick answers. So this is from Martha Duque, actor. How does society portray a man being in his prime? And how do you define a man being in his prime? And she has put quotations for that term.
Great question. Great question. In society, being a man in his prime, for I believe most people, if you're in your prime, your physical prime in terms of shape, in terms of athletic performance. However, for me personally, a man who is in his prime is much later in his life, because he acquire a certain knowledge that he didn't have early on. So he's able to make better choice. He has more wisdom. To be in your prime, I believe, for me personally, is to be between 70 and 90 years old. Could be more or less, depending of every person is different. But it's not a man in his 20s or early 30s. That's how most of society see it.
So basically what you're saying is you're defining a man in his prime not by his physical prowess, not by his ability to kick another guy's ass, not by his ability to physically defend somebody, but by the accumulation of wisdom and experience. and love.
Knowledge, experience, wisdom. Exactly.
I love
That's,
that.
I believe, when you're at your
Yeah.
maximum in terms of potential.
I hope
because
you
I don't see it.
I hope you tell all your male followers that. That would be amazing. All right, go ahead.
When's
But
the last
that's
time?
how it is. I think that's how it should be. You know what I mean?
There should be
course,
that for
in
women
terms
too,
of-
by the way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we
man,
got,
and
we got
yeah,
a lot
there's
of
a whole
work.
other-
We got a lot of work to do on that.
100%, 100%. You know, because the environment I gravitate around, especially for the sport, you know, it's about performance. But there's also, in terms of performance, I would like to think that I'm 40 years old now. Maybe physically, in terms of athletic ability, my athletic ability might have diminished a little bit. But I'm under the impression that my knowledge and experience have come up. And I could, well, even though I'm retired, I could well be better now than I was at 25, I think.
Oh wait, are we hearing you say something? Are you going to come back? Is that what?
No.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
But I'm just saying that if I would want to, the reason why I'm not fighting is because I never enjoyed it, and it's for other personal reasons. Because I have, like I said, other priorities. I'm not.
Yes.
I no longer need it anymore.
George, tell me when the last time you cried was.
Man, I was by myself. It was actually not yesterday. It was 2 days ago. I was rehearsing a script for a movie scenario, and I needed to cry. And in order to cry, I needed to remember a souvenir. I used a very sad souvenir. I went to when my grandmother passed away a few months ago. She was 95 years old. You know, it's pretty good life. But I went to the cemetery for this, you know, the ceremony. After the funeral, we went to the cemetery where she's buried, and I saw the tomb of my cousin who died when he was much younger. He was like 16 years old, and unfortunately, it's a very devastating thing that happened. And when I was looking at his tomb, his mother says, "Hey, George, he was everything for you. You know, like you were his hero." And that, I didn't cry on the spot, and I hold it because I don't like to cry on people. That's another idea that I should get rid of. But that's how I am, and it's hard to admit that that's how I am. I'm not man enough. I should just let it go and cry because it would have been okay. But in my surrounding, I've been so forced to think that, oh, you shouldn't cry, you shouldn't show these weakness in public. So I hold it back. So when I was now fast forward, 2 days ago, when I was practicing that scene, that I should cry about something completely different. It's part of the script. To help me cry, I thought about that moment. And man, right away, my eyes became in tears and everything. So, yeah, that's the last time I cried because I have a souvenir that I remember that happened a few months ago that really hurt me on the spot, but I hold it back. And now it's not okay. You should not hold it back. And I did it. It's, you know.
Thanks for sharing.
George, I've gotten a lot of responses from men when I talk about my insecurities who tell me that real men shouldn't be insecure. What are you insecure about?
Man, there's a lot of things I'm insecure about.
I love hearing that.
Man, I don't know where to start. It's a lot of things. I was insecure in many situations, like I always been. When you go ask a girl for a date, I was insecure. Of course, before a fight, everybody knows. And when you have to apologize to someone, it makes you insecure because would that person accept your apology, or would he be mad, or would he tell you to F out? You know, it's very hard. It's very hard to admit sometimes that you do something wrong and you need to apologize to someone. And it makes you very insecure. It put you in a very vulnerable spot.
Great pivot for our next one. When is the last time that you apologized?
It was like about a week ago that I got mad. I got mad to my sister for something, and I got angry. And I kind of overreact. I did not realize at the time because I was emotional, but I called her. I say, I'm sorry what I said. You know, if I put myself in your shoes, I could see why you did this. But when I talked to you, I was selfish. I didn't do this. I was too much emotional. But now looking back at things, I can, I don't think what you did was right, but I can understand your point of view and why you did it. So I overreact, and I apologize about it.
I love that.
It takes time, and she accepted the apology, so makes me feel good. It's off my chest now. This is something that when I was young, I was not doing. I didn't have the courage to do. When something like this happened, I let it go, and I thought of it like, oh, I'm gonna let time heal it. Even though you feel on your chest, you feel bad. Time goes by and you forgot about it. But I believe if you do that through all your life, it accumulate, and it will wear on your shoulder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's important to release it as it goes. When I don't keep it inside of you.
Real men apologize.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, if you could go back in time to that little boy who was being bullied, maybe who wasn't getting attention from his alcoholic father, that insecure boy, if you could whisper in his ear, what would you tell him?
I would tell him that I love him.
Oh.
And I never say that until maybe until this day. I never say that. I say it to you, but I never had the courage to say it to him yet.
Oh.
I'm still not, I'm talking always in the past, but when I said earlier, I didn't like who I saw in the mirror, and I fall in love with that image, that who I wanted to become. I'm still not that guy. I'm still not perfect, and I'm honest 100%. There's things that I still don't have the courage to say, but I should say. You know what I mean? It's okay to say, but it's so weird. You know what I mean? But I should say it.
We've been conditioned.
And I know that I still have a lot of things that I need to work on, especially on myself, in terms of emotion. It's okay for a man to tell another man, hey, man, I love you. You had a huge impact, and you know what I mean? It takes a lot. And that's something that it needs to be done, hopefully in the near future.
Yes. And then if you could be a guest at your own funeral, if you could watch what people say about you, what do you hope they say about you and the way you lived your life?
Well, I don't want my funeral to be sad, in a way that I want it to be happy, in a way that people are thinking that I had a great life and I live it to the fullest with no regret. Like, it's okay to have regret, but at the end, I was able to make peace with all of it, all the mistake that I have done, because I believe in everything we have in life. We have to be able to detach from it, no matter what it is. Your computer, your car, your house, your friend, your family, your mom, dad, everything, kids, whatever it is. One day you will be separated from it. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's a very big challenge of life, and I hope that when that happens, that people that are close to me are able to make that transition smoothly. You know what I mean? And it's very hard. It demands a lot of wisdom, a lot of strength, in a way.
All right, last question. Georges St-Pierre, what does it mean for you to be man enough?
To be man enough, I believe, is to be able to do the right thing, even though to the eyes of people, it is not.
Wow.
to do the right thing when you know it's the right thing in your heart, to have the courage to stood up to it and to do it, to follow your heart. You know, when you think something is
Yes.
good and you believe in it, to stick to it and have the strength to do it, even though maybe the entire planet think is wrong. You know what I mean? But if you think in your heart is the right thing to do, do it. And this is the truth. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I love that so much, and I just want to offer one thing. I'm not, and this is not me giving advice. I just want to offer a thought because I feel like we've gotten to know each other. You've been so vulnerable with us, and I'd beat myself up if I didn't say this, but so many people come to you for advice. So many young boys look up to you because you are what so many of us want to be. We've all been bullied, made fun of, insecure. And you found a way to overcome all of it, and you've used your physical strength. But what you just said, I think, is the most important thing you could ever say. It's about following your heart. And one of the things I'm teaching my son, and I offer this to you, and maybe you'll have your own spin on it when these boys talk to you. But one of the things I'm teaching my son, because the world is going to teach him to be like Georges St-Pierre. The world's going to teach him he needs to fight and defend himself. What I'm teaching him is that the strongest muscle in his body is his heart. So maybe in addition to go to school, you can help these young boys remember that do all that stuff, go to school, but the most important thing, the strongest muscle in your entire body isn't your biceps. It's not your legs for that roundhouse kick or your fist for that jab. It's your heart, because that's going to be the thing that matters more than anything in this whole world. And I want you to know that you, my brother, with your bravery today, are man enough.
Well, I'm still not perfect. I still have a long way to go, but
And that's what makes you man enough.
getting closer to become man enough as much as I want to be, but I'm still not there.
Oh man, I hope we can all hang out together and get to know each other at some point. I will never take my shirt off around you ever. And thank you so much for being here, brother.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, brother.
Thank you very much, guys.
We'll be right back. This is Man Enough. Hello and welcome back to Man Enough.
Yes, sir.
Jamie, I so appreciate you speaking so much during that conversation. You had so much to say.
I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Because you didn't know who he was?
I had no clue.
Is that why?
I mean, of course I knew that we prepped and, I knew that he's, so, I did some research and, but
Well, I mean, Travis Van Winkle, one of our dear friends, texted me and said, I can't even believe you didn't invite me to set today.
Yeah.
So he has that much influence. I was so...
Yeah, clearly.
I'm going to be honest. I had no idea if he was going to have armor on or be guarded. I know there's a little bit of a language thing, but I was so impressed at how open he was and how vulnerable he was.
Yeah.
Like he shared that he had depression and anxiety and even crying and all of these things. And these are not normalized things.
My favorite part is when he said he didn't have the courage to do what Simone Biles did.
Yes.
And use that word over and over again. I wasn't as strong as her, essentially, which I think should have been the narrative that a lot of athletes should have spoken out about. And that would have given us, I think, a very different perspective on what she did.
That's
I
fair.
really appreciated that.
But it takes men like him sharing these things for us to start to normalize some of this. Because if people like him are looked at in that sport as a god, and if he's open about this stuff, I don't know, maybe that's how change happens. That's why we're doing this podcast. It's like we're cracking it open little by little and making progress. I really appreciate you being honest and telling the most famous man in UFC history that you had no clue who he was. That took bravery too, Jamie. I can't wait to tell some of our friends that.
You'll probably get so many texts of other people who are saying, "I can't believe you didn't bring me a set." Now then it's going to be out.
Yeah, it's going to be out.
People are going to be.
They're going to be like, "Why did you have Jamie there?"
Why was I there?
I loved your question though. I loved your question.
Yeah, I loved it too. And not the question. I loved my own question. Wow.
I loved your question.
We loved it.
Thank you. As much as I loved the conversation and having it with him, this iconic person, clearly, anyone that's in a Hall of Fame of anything is iconic in at least in that field, and then in the world in many ways. And I still am interested because while we did go deep in some ways that you just acknowledged, I still think the norm for us men, we have to go more. As much as he was willing to go, it still was surrounded with like, work and, even like his, which is great. It's not that I'm critiquing him at all. Just that we learn how to navigate really, really getting into the next layer.
And we're not there.
Yeah, I know.
And that's what's so interesting about these conversations, right? Because I'll be honest, there's a whole part of my brain before I talk to Georges St-Pierre that's like insecure. I'm not as much of a man. I don't know how he could destroy me, kick my ass in a fight. And then there's a part of me that's measures my masculinity that way. But this is the flaw with the concept of the alpha. Because in this conversation, if George and I were in a sparring match right now, but the actual rules were about emotional intelligence or the ability to have these types of conversations, I wouldn't be insecure.
Right.
I'm only insecure when the parameters are fight. But I'm not insecure when we're talking about going deep and being vulnerable. And that's something that I have to physically work on, is to remind myself, like, wait a second, the rules of the patriarchy demand this of me, but that's not actually how worth is measured, right? You put someone like George, who is the alpha of the UFC, in a chess tournament, and Jamie kicks his ass.
Oh,
maybe. I'm assuming something, but you're a master chess player.
Just masterful.
I did not know that.
He's really good.
Oh my God, we should
I'm not
totally
a master
play.
chess player, but
Yes,
I would throw down though.
Damn.
Yes, you are. Anyways, I just thought it was really sweet, and I just applaud his bravery in sharing these things. And I really hope that if you've made it this far, if you're a man listening to this, that you, like me, can start to look at some of this stuff and ask these questions. Like, this doesn't serve us. Where do we get these ideas? Why does it have to be about physical bravery? Why don't we celebrate emotional bravery?
And women.
Yeah. Next time I would ask him, if he ever comes back on our show, I'm going to ask, like, these are 4 questions I'm real curious about all men. How do you feel about women?
Because it's all tied together.
How do you feel about women? Do you think women are equal? Most people are going to say yes. Oh, okay. What do you do about it? What do you think about race? What do you think about your status in the world? How do you use your status to do things differently? Those are the questions that I care most about any man.
So you're going to start asking those questions. Good.
I do ask them.
Yeah, he does.
I do generally.
Yeah.
But, I didn't know who I was talking to, so I just kidding. I didn't know that I was talking to one of the most famous people in the world.
Wow.
This has happened to me with other guests. I will be honest. I won't say who, but come on. It happens to everybody.
It does.
We're in different bubbles.
When Rainn Wilson walked in this room,
I know you
Liz
was
Plank
jumping.
became a fangirl. Boy, did she. If you like this conversation, please follow us and like us wherever you subscribe to your podcasts. And check us out at manenough.com/podcast. Justin Baldoni.
I'm Liz Plank.
I'm Jamie Heath.
And he knows nothing about UFC. And this is Man Enough.